A top-tier elite operative vanished, only to return years later as a cold puppet. But here's the insane part. She didn't just forget her own kid, she became her worst enemy. If this file is accurate, then everything the Gosha village taught us about loyalty is a lie. I mean, imagine realizing the ultimate hero actually chose to embrace the absolute darkness. So in this video, we are unpacking the most messed up betrayal uncovered decades later. Welcome to the channel. Hit that subscribe button because this lore drop is absolutely heavy. Let us rewind a bit to the year 2079 at the Washizu Material Research Facility, alright? A massive raid is happening and Taimanin Yukikaze finally reunites with her missing mother. You would expect a tearful hug, but Shiranui just stares at her kid with zero emotion at all. She stands right next to the Incubus King Kuroi Ryuji, completely ignoring Yukikaze's pleas. Then they just vanish into thin air, leaving her daughter absolutely shattered on the floor. How does a loving mom turn into a completely ruthless enforcer for the literal Demon King? Honestly, the mainstream fandom always paints Mizuki Shiranui as this pure, innocent victim, but I kinda disagree, because her original files from Gosha Village tell a much darker story. Born around 2044, Shiranui was basically the Michael Jordan of the Taimanin Ninja Society. She mastered water art illusions and was the absolute idol everyone wanted to be back then. She married super young, like around 14 to 18, and had Yukikaze around 2060. After her kid was born, she dialed back her missions and played the ultimate sweet mom role. She even trained the Akiyama kids, Rinko and Tatsuro, treating them like her own family. You know, she had this incredibly calm vibe, always smiling even when giving a harsh lecture. But people tend to forget one tiny detail that the game barely mentions in passing lore. Before she met her lightning user husband, Shiranui was known to be incredibly vicious. Like, she wasn't just skilled, she had a brutal edge that she actively suppressed for years. So what happens when someone forces that buried violent nature back up to the surface? The disaster started in 2073, or 2077 depending on which RPG timeline you were looking at. A corrupt politician named Yazaki Munaichi handed her a super shady solo investigation. She was supposed to look into the Nomad group, but Munaichi was secretly tied to the demons. She went to Yomihara and just vanished, leaving everyone in Gosha to assume her life ended. The village lost their greatest veteran, and they had absolutely zero leads for several years. Her husband spent his entire time searching until his own existence ceased 4 years later. Meanwhile, Shiranui was trapped in a place called Under Eden, owned by Yazaki Toshiji. This guy, known as Real, spent 3 whole years trying to completely break her mental state. They used intense combat conditioning and heavy psychological warfare to force her submission. And you know what's crazy? She actually resisted all of it, holding out hope for a rescue. Her superhuman mental strength was holding the line, proving why she was a top-tier legend. So Real eventually gave up and shipped her off to the Seishu Academy research facility. They modified her and put her through another entire year of extreme trials under Inui Hideo. She still retained her sanity, which is honestly just an insane feat of pure willpower. But her survival streak was about to hit a brick wall, and this is where things get super dark. Because holding out against physical exhaustion is one thing, but supernatural manipulation?
That is a whole different ballgame, and the Incubus King decided to handle her personally. Kuroi Ryuji didn't bother with the cheap conditioning methods the human researchers used. He literally cleared her previous brainwashing just so she could regain complete clarity. Imagine finally thinking you were free, only to realize the final boss just entered the room. Using his supernatural powers, he replicated all of her past battles and traumatic memories. He threw her into endless combat simulations, pushing her way past normal human limits. She didn't get a single second of rest, just a continuous loop of agonizing mental pressure. It took 3 years for humans to fail, but the Incubus King completely broke her in days. This is the exact moment where the motherly Shiranui we all knew was permanently erased. She lost her connection to her human side, and a heavy demonic aura fully enveloped her. She morphed into a cold, calculated warrior who speaks with absolute, terrifying precision. Gone was the gentle teacher. She became the king's most loyal and sadistic elite assassin. Honestly, I think her original vicious nature just took the steering wheel at this point. Fast forward to 2079, during the events of Taimanin Yukikaze 2, when Tatsuro investigates. He and Kosaka Shizuru sneak into the facility, only to trigger the security drone systems. They try to escape, but they immediately run straight into Shiranui wearing a black suit. She is wielding clawed weapons and moves with a speed that totally outclasses both of them. Shiranui strikes Shizuru, delivering a special toxin that secretly houses an Eve mind chip. She lets them flee, knowing perfectly well the nanomachines will eventually corrupt Shizuru. It is a completely brilliant and twisted tactical move, totally unlike her former self.
She is essentially playing 4D chess while her former allies are still playing checkers. And this perfectly sets up that devastating reunion with Yukikaze I mentioned at the start. During the final raid, Yukikaze and Rinko pull off a massive combo to clear the facility. But Shiranui just stands by the Incubus King, looking completely unmoved by the whole thing. She doesn't even bother to exchange a single word with the daughter she used to dote on. To her, the concept of family is just a rusty relic of a foolish, outdated human past. She believes true justice can only be achieved through the power of this new demonic darkness. In some RPG routes, she claims she still watches over them, but I call total BS on that. You don't just hand your kid over to a demon lord and claim you still care about their safety. Like she literally suggested giving Yukikaze to her new master to become a subordinate. The game tries to play it off as a tragic loss of control, but look at her actual actions. Even when overpowered by enemies, she remains completely unnerving and perfectly composed. She switches roles depending on her opponent, using her friendly smile to mask her cruelty. If she is ordered to, she would eliminate her own daughter without a second of hesitation. That is not just brainwashing. That is a fundamental rewrite of her core belief system. The Incubus faction didn't just steal a soldier. They weaponized a mother's deepest flaws. Because remember, her original files clearly stated she hated feeling out of shape or rusty. The Demon King gave her the ultimate power upgrade, and she willingly embraced the fall. She finally got her prime strength back, but the cost was her entire human moral compass. Now she exists as this terrifying entity, respected and deeply feared by everyone around. I guess the harsh reality is that some heroes don't want to be saved from the darkness. Maybe they find a twisted sense of peace when they no longer have to pretend to be perfect. And honestly, that makes Shiranui a far more compelling character than just a tragic mom. It leaves you wondering if anyone in the Gosha village is actually immune to corruption. Because if the absolute best of them can fall this hard, what hope do the rookies have left? This whole scenario just proves that psychological tension always beats raw physical combat. To me, her story is the absolute peak of gaming tragedy, proving no one is safe from fate. The way her mind was systematically deconstructed is genuinely terrifying to think about. If you want more deep dives into the darkest gaming lore, hit subscribe before you miss out. We are going to uncover even more hidden truths next time, so stay tuned for the next video.